Happy Tuesday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Final Whistle here on the Bama Standard. Again, the Bama Standard is your one-stop shop, the number one stop for all things Alabama football content related. And we've got a packed house. Hit that like, subscribe button. Ladies and gentlemen, back from coaching many football games. Glad to have him back. Chris James, how are you today, sir?
Man, what's up, man? Ready to get into it, big dog. Just busy week, man. Busy, but ready to get into it. Let's get it.
Let's get into it. High school football started. Listen, Bama's going to start next week. So excited. Right above Chris James, we got the one and only Lushan. How are you today, sir?
I'm feeling good. We're inching closer and closer. That much more closer to game day, guys. I'm excited. Let's get it in. Let's go.
Let's go. And speaking of let's go, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Around the Table Sports, the guy who has wrote so many complaint letters to YouTube for taking forever to get those videos uploaded. Mr. Around the Table Sports, the one and only Ty Hayes. Ty Hayes, how are you, sir?
Man, doing good. And if I could, a little bit of an announcement just to let all the good people of the Bama Standard know. I got an email yesterday from Bleacher Report. The National College Football Pick'em Show is coming back this year. I will be featured every Friday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Bleacher Report app as we go through 10 games a week and give our predictions. And I would love to see each and every one of you over there.
Let's do it. Guys, let's get the Bleacher Report and follow Ty Hayes. He's a living legend, a rock star.
They got to have some Bama voice over there, and I do what I can.
Please do.
I'm with you. Let's go.
Represent.
I don't pick against Bama.
Smart. You're smart, young man. What's going from pick 'em to stick 'em, the one and only, our resident Deadpool.
No pause.
Deadpool, Daniel Petty, how are you today, sir?
Man, it's rough. I've been in witness protection since our last show, and that Auburn rant leaked. Hugh Freeze has had his people coming at me, so I've had to go on the low. But other than that, man, we're good. Glad to be back for another week with my fellas, the Avengers. I'm having Lou come down for some protection here. You know, I'm having to hire the big guns.
Gotta hire the big guns. And listen, everybody, that's the cast of the Final Whistle. We're glad you all are in here. Get in that chat, everybody. Shouts out to the chat. We know the Auburn fans are gonna be coming in here talking noise to the one and only Daniel Petty. But at the end of the day, guys, let's shout out our first sponsor, which is workspacepros.com for workspace solutions. If you want to take your digital online presence to the next level, go to workspacepros.com and they will take your business to new heights. So, guys, we're about 11 days away from kickoff. Alabama kicking things off versus Western Kentucky. But first, guys, let's get into some recruiting news. Let's talk about some big-time recruiting news. Recruiting madness. Jaedon Harmon flips from Alabama to those Vols up there in Knoxville, and AK Dear commits. Let's talk about the impact of both of those guys. Let's start with Ty. I'll give Ty the floor, and we'll go to Petty and the rest of the crew.
Yeah, I'll start with Harmon. Out of all the flips that we've had thus far, gentlemen, and I'm interested in getting y'all's opinion as I adjust my camera mid-sentence, I'm interested to hear from y'all. That was the flip that surprised me the most. But I have an interesting take, and I'm really interested after I say it. Would love to hear from each and every one of you as you give your analysis, your thought on this. I would be more concerned had he flipped and we didn't have Duke Johnson already in the class. Now, let me explain. Because if this linebacker class was, say, Ty Jackson, Abdul Sanders, Luke Metz, still unbelievable, but Jaedon Harmon is a really interesting prospect in the sense of he's a hybrid type guy. Like, you can do a lot of different things with him. He is a fantastic player, as much as I hate to say it, because, you know, it's Tennessee. Tennessee got a good one, right? Just like I didn't hold any punches with Derek Smith. Derek Smith wanted to be a wide receiver. Happy for him that he's pursuing that. He's a hell of a player. I'll remain consistent here. Jaedon Harmon is a hell of a player. But given the fact that you have Duke Johnson in the class and he provides that same sort of versatility and hybrid ability in his game, it makes the loss sustainable. Duke Johnson, 5-star prospect. And if Alabama goes out there and lands a Ty Jackson, you're going to have your 4 interior linebackers being Duke Johnson, Abdul Sanders, Ty Jackson, Luke Metz. That's an incredible haul. I mean, even if they keep it at the 3 they have right now, gentlemen, that in and of itself is an insane haul of Duke Johnson, Abdul Sanders, Luke Metz, but Ty Jackson really is that guy. But that's my take on Harmon. Interested in hearing from all of you about how Duke Johnson's presence mitigates that loss and what he brings to the table. But Harmon is a monster. Shout out to Tennessee, as much as it makes me want to throw up in my mouth even saying that. Got a hell of a player. On to Akylin Dear. Akylin Dear is a really interesting prospect, guys. 6'1", 210 pounds, number 31 player in the nation, the number 2 running back, number 3 in the state of Mississippi, 5-star prospect. But the reason why I say he's interesting is he truly is an every down running back. He's got the long speed. He's got shiftiness. He's got great vision. He has the one-cut ability. But something I talk about all the time is that whenever you can get a running back or any player out there that has the ability to shift from first to second to third, back down to first, and then back all the way up to fourth quicker than everybody else on the football field, you have something. It just helps when that guy's 6'1", 210 pounds, has physicality, and has long speed. He is a really interesting running back, and I'm very happy Robert Gillespie adds him into the fold.
Patty, before I give it to you, you know, you're kind of our Mississippi, Ole Miss, Rebel kind of insider on the show. What's the impact that, you know, that most Rebels, Hotty Toddy Nation feels regarding AK Dear, and what's the state of Mississippi recruiting now that Alabama has Caleb Cunningham and AK Dear on, you know, probably the 2 top prospects in the state of Mississippi, still going to the Crimson Tide. Can you discuss that?
No doubt. I don't think there's as much angst over Cunningham. I don't think Ole Miss really ever felt like they were in it for him with the Mississippi State ties and him kind of wanting to get out of state. Dear, on the other hand, I'm be honest. I text this to you guys. I think Dear is a hell of a statement in the recruiting because, look, there's no secret. Ole Miss has gained more momentum than they've ever had in their program's history right now. Lane's doing a hell of a job. They're bringing in top-level recruits. They are a contender this year. And with Nick Saban leaving, and look, man, Saban's always been able to cherry-pick Mississippi. Alabama has historically been able to cherry-pick Mississippi for certain players that they wanted. However, in a time where you're in transition from losing Nick Saban, Ole Miss is hot, a very hot name, not just in Mississippi, but nationally. You would think this would be a time where Ole Miss could capitalize and keep a top prospect. And they even had Dear committed at one point. But then he goes to Tuscaloosa, talks to Morgan, talks to Gillespie, talks to DeBoer, talks to Sheridan. And what this signifies to me, and this is from the Ole Miss fan side of me, that for everybody that thought Alabama was about to lose a step in recruiting or anything, they've lost none. They are dead stride. They are still the exact same Alabama. They still go in a time where Ole Miss should absolutely be able to flex a little bit and keep a top player in state. Alabama still crosses that border and takes the best 2 players in the state of Mississippi, one from Mississippi State and one from Ole Miss. And again, it's a sign to me, and it should be to most Ole Miss fans and maybe not people across the country, that Alabama they're not skipping a beat right now in recruiting. And that should be alarming to everybody that's hoping they do. So no, that's the deal. Mississippi players have always been flaky. They've always been goofy, and they've always kind of had their eyes on bigger programs outside the state if they could go. This was a time where maybe Ole Miss thought they could stop that, and they couldn't. So again, a big sign. And on the other kid that flipped to Tennessee, I want to talk on that for a second. I don't think it hurts Bama as much. It hurts to lose a guy, yeah, but the level Bama's recruiting right now, I think they'll be able to make up for it. What I think it's more of a sign, and people don't want to talk about right now, is Tennessee's a real player in the game right now, people. I know y'all want to talk about it, and they may not be this year. I know they're really dependent on a freshman quarterback and Nico, but they just got a commitment from a 5-star offensive tackle and David Sanders over the weekend. They flip a player from Bama. They just put Pilot on their field. Trust me, they set the trend on signatures on the field. That is coming, and they were the first ones to do it and take money off of it. Tennessee's a serious player in the recruiting world again, and they haven't really been since the 90s. I know, look, this is nothing Bama fans want to hear, but we're about to be dealing with the Tennessee we dealt with in the 90s, I'm afraid. I think Heupel's got it going, and they are recruiting. So not as much that recruit flipping hurts Bama, again, with the way they're recruiting. It's just kind of more of a sign that Tennessee might be one of the bigger threats coming in the SEC the next couple of years. But sucks, but it is what it is, Bama fans.
Great take right there. Now I'm going to move it over to Lushawn, and we'll end it with Chris. Lushawn, kind of what do you think with Harmon flipping? What's your take on that? I'm interested to get your take because, you always have insightful thoughts. No, you don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide, but I just want to get, do you think this is the end of the road from here for him, or, just want to get your thoughts on this.
As far as Harmon flipping, it's not going to stop Alabama U from making linebackers at linebacker U. So as far as it affecting anything, I don't think it does. Was I excited to see the kid suit up in crimson and white? Absolutely. But it didn't shake out that way. We've had a lot of players that we wished came to Alabama but didn't. But that's not to say he couldn't come here in the future, because as we all know, the transfer portal is live. So I'm not really too worried about it. Harmon flipping, we got plenty in the chamber. Like Ty said, we already have an amazing linebacker class, so I'm not really worried. But on the other hand, I am very excited for this running back commitment, especially for Robert Gillespie, because he continues to not only recruit at a top level, he is producing running backs that can play every down, and they can do everything, especially pass block. And that is probably one of the most important things, one of the most overlooked things in football today. He teaches the little things, and they get them right, and they make them a process, and it becomes second nature. Robert Gillespie is the best running back coach in the nation, guys, and the nation needs to recognize him. So that's what I got to say. I'm excited for Dear. As far as the flip season, that's just the way of the world these days, folks.
I like that. Love that you brought up. Shouts out to Robert Gillespie and what he's doing at running back room. Glad to have him on staff. Chris, I want you to kind of, you're one of the unofficial GMs. Give me your take on AK Dear. What type of style running back he is? Just what do you seen? I know you just seen the tape, the film on him. Just talk about, how maybe you got a player comp for him. Just talk about his style, his explosiveness, all his great attributes.
AK Dear, man, he's different because of his size. Like he plays like a smaller back, but I mean he moves like a smaller back, but he plays like a big back. He's like a best of everything. He can play all three downs. I'm thinking like how hard he runs, kind of like a Marshawn Lynch, almost. But he's a little bit more athletic. You get what I'm saying? Not to say that Lynch wasn't athletic. AK Dear can do it all, man. And it's crazy to think that you will have him on campus with a Justice Haynes, a Richard Young, I mean Daniel Hill, Kevin Riley. That's just flat out sick. To think that you know, you can have all those guys on campus next year. But he's somebody that will come in and play early. He's somebody that's going to come in the running back room and say, "Hey, I'm here to compete." And I think he'll answer the call. He won't be on the bench for long. And as far as Harmon flipping, like Ty alluded to earlier, I'm glad that Duke Johnson is on board. I mean, that's one position we can afford to lose the commit at is linebacker because we're kind of loaded there, you know, with what we have, you know, the young linebackers that we have. So it always sucks to lose somebody that's a heat sinking missile like he is. And you know, hats off to Tennessee for not giving up on the kid and flipping them. But just to have Duke Johnson on board along with the kid from Mater Dei and everybody that we have committed at linebacker, Luke Mex, man, like we can we are very versatile. That we have a lot of options to move those guys around. And keep in mind, we're also still in it for the number one ranked linebacker in the country, too. So, hey, you know, you never know what you know what can happen from there. But like Bama still, I mean, has six 5-stars committed. So it's not like the covered bear. People were talking, "Oh, Bama's done. Hey, y'all, we got 6 5-stars. You're never done in a recruiting cycle. You have 6 5-stars in one recruiting cycle. That's more than some conferences alone have in the whole entire conference. So, man, you know, I'm just glad that we got this pickup today to get the ball rolling again, the momentum rolling on the recruiting trail, so we can have a shot to finish with that top class.
And, you know, big recruiting news, probably the biggest news, was Alabama's player personnel GM, Courtney Morgan, getting the big raise, renegotiated contract for close to $1 million. And
who's shuffling cards?
I don't know. Probably Chris. But yeah, shouts out to Courtney Morgan. That was actually Courtney Morgan shuffling his stacks of money that he's got in his office from the new contract. So we want to shout out Courtney Morgan. Thanks for all you do. And you know, I just think it's the future of college football. I know Ty Hayes kind of mentioned it. USC propped and wanted to try to get him. And I think, Ty, you can, you know, jump on this topic about how that GM position will be a big position, just like some NFL teams.
Yeah, gone are the days of the Nick Sabans of college football. And I don't say that to say that there's not that caliber of individual, right, with that level of drive that Nick Saban had, though they're still few and far between. I say that because, Matt, Chris, when y'all played, and that wasn't that long ago, right? Mm-hmm. Like in the grand scheme of things, that was yesterday. There are so many more avenues you have to keep up with. There's NIL now. There's what you can, what you can't do. There's collectives now. You have to now recruit basically your boosters, your organization does, to be all the way bought in. There's also revenue sharing on the horizon. What does that look like? Who the hell knows? You also have 2 signing days, the transfer portal, which they can't do anything with until NCAA can pass antitrust muster, which is part of the reason why someone like myself is so interested in revenue sharing. It will help the NCAA get there. But I bring all this up because gone are the days where you could have someone be the head coach, be on top of the recruiting board, be the CEO. It's too much now. Even Nick Saban in his last few years, right, talked about being spread so thin. This is a position, mark my words, in the next 5 years, you're going to see everybody have their own version of a Courtney Morgan. And it may be called different things. Mm-hmm. USC tried to hire him as president of football operations. Basically, as I understand it, it would be serving in the same capacity. Oklahoma just brought in a general manager, as well as they're working with the athletic group, which worked with the Philadelphia Eagles trying to get ahead of revenue sharing, which, listen, shout out to them. That's brilliant. Use everything at your disposal. That's where we are now. But this is a copycat league, ladies and gentlemen. Nick Saban started having analysts out the wazoo on his staff, and guess what happened? You look around college football, everybody's got more analysts than you can shake a stick at. Everybody will get themselves their version of a Courtney Morgan because this is a copycat league. And if it's working to the tune of the number 2 recruiting class in the nation, as Chris alluded to, 6 5-stars, being able to spread yourself across the country, people will take notice. They already have, and that's why some places have tried to get him from Bama. This, gentlemen, this is a huge move.
Love it. Shouts out to the board of trustees for getting that locked and loaded for Courtney Morgan. So, guys, let's move on to our next topic. Let's get into the football season. We know the SEC has expanded, adding Texas and Oklahoma into the SEC. Guys, who do you have as your SEC sleepers this year? And we're going to go in reverse order. We're going to start with Chris, then Lushan, Petty, then Ty. Let's go, Chris. Who is your SEC sleeper for this year?
My SEC sleeper for this year are the Oklahoma Sooners. They're talented, man. They return some key guys and key positions, and I think that they're gonna be a tough out, man. I'm dreading that trip that we have with them in November, the week before the Iron Bowl. Circle that game right there for Bama. I think it's gonna be a tough game for us, and one that we really would have to bring it. You know what I'm saying, to pull that one out. That's my biggest sleeper. And another team, not a sleeper. You know I had to do this. Not a sleeper.
Can't just name just one.
I had to. The Florida Gators, man. Like the people talk about how hard their schedule is, Matt. I think they win more than 4 games, man. 3-4 games. I really think they might reach a bowl.
I think they're gonna surprise a lot of teams.
I think so too. I trust Billy Napier, man. I think that he'll find a way, man. He'll find a way to sneak out some wins, man, for games he's not supposed to win.
I like it.
Yeah.
Oklahoma. Chris James is rolling with the Sooners up there in Norman, Oklahoma. Lushan, who is your SEC sleeper for 2024? I think you're on mute.
This is tough because I hate every other team in the SEC. I'm just gonna keep it all the way 100. But if I had to pick a sleeper, and this is okay, I'm gonna go a little bit differently. It's gonna be a sleeping thorn, as I like to say. It's gonna be this team is gonna give teams headaches. I'm not saying they're gonna be top in the conference, but South Carolina is going to hit teams a lot below the belt this season. I think it might take its toll on some of the teams in the SEC. South Carolina is my SEC sleeper to surprise me and everybody else.
The Gamecocks over there. Wow. I like that. Up there in Columbia, South Carolina. So we got one for Oklahoma, one for Columbia. Mr. Daniel Petty, who is your sleeper in the SEC?
I like that Columbia pick because I think Rocket Sanders coming over there. If he's healthy, they could be dangerous. Man, I hate to be Chris here because I had to fight on this one. So Chris, I'm going to give you a shout out. I got a few that I was fighting off. I mean, Arkansas with Petrino and Tylen Green, the transfer from Boise State. I don't know if they're a sleeper, but I think they're going to upset someone. They get Tennessee the week after Tennessee goes to Oklahoma in Fayetteville. And that could definitely be a trap game, but I just don't know if they've got the defense to win enough. Kentucky is loaded at every level on defense. I mean, they've got 2 guys that are first team All SEC. You know, at cornerback and the defensive tackle, Dion Walker. But and then they got the transfer from Georgia at linebacker. So if Vandergriff can play, Kentucky's gonna hurt some feelings, but. Man, I hate to circle. I got to go back with Chris. I think it's Oklahoma. I think if Jackson Arnold is who they think he can be with Anthony Anderson and Burke, 4, 5, and 6 at receiver. And what's his name? Stuttinson's first team all SEC at linebacker. They got a great secondary. And if you look at their schedule, Temple, Houston, Tulane out of the gate, they're going to win those. If they can knock off Tennessee and Norman, they're looking, then they go to Auburn. They're looking at 5-0 going into the Texas game. And man, there's a lot of whispers that Texas isn't what everybody thinks they are, and they're going to take a major step back. Say they knock that game off, they're now 6-0. South Carolina at home, 7-0. Then they go to Ole Miss. Man, they're hot. They could knock that one. I mean, give them a loss there. Win Maine, go to Mizzou. Say they knock off Mizzou, but then Bama and LSU. Those are the tests. They got at Ole Miss, at Mizzou, Bama at home, and then at LSU. If they can win 2 of those, they could be your sleeper to walk into the playoffs in their first year of the SEC. And I think they do it over Texas.
I love that breakdown, Petty. Great job. We're
Hey,
gonna say
before Ty goes, Chris Williams, I know who it won't be. It won't be them doggone Auburn Tigers. I tell you that, brother.
I mean, shit,
listen, we
between
went
you and-
26 minutes without roasting Auburn and Chris.
Oh, I'm saving it.
No, I just had to, man. Like I just get sick of foolishness.
Oh man, 26 minutes in, and Chris went ahead and did it. Ty Hayes, Mr. Around the Table Sports. I'm interested to get your take on this topic and who you got as sleeping in the SEC.
I think Ty was going to take Auburn until Chris made fun of him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, did we
What?
say sleeping with Miss? Oh, no, sleeper teams. Oh. You're right. That's my bad. No, listen, you guys know me. I like to try and, if I can, give a different answer. So just going on, OU was going to be my answer. That's not going to be what I stick with because I think that's a great pick. They returned the most talent in all of the SEC on the defensive side of the ball, and they got some major wins on the defensive line from Dominic Williams, Stoney. But the guy I'm most excited about, ladies and gentlemen, keep your eye out for Jaden Jackson on that OU defensive line, a monster from IMG. And, Petty, I agree. I actually... The only area where I disagree with you is I think Ole Miss is going to be a bit more of a test for Oklahoma than is LSU because of Ole Miss's secondary. LSU's secondary still has a lot of questions. Ole Miss has some length in that secondary, and you're talking about an OU wide receiver room that has a Nick Anderson who's 6'4", right? Like you're going to need that. That's the only area, but everywhere else completely lockstep. I would just flip. But you guys know I have some questions. I'm very happy, though, with Lushan saying South Carolina. If South Carolina's line is good, they're going to be a problem, right? They could really surprise some people. It all hinges on that line. Lenora Sellers being named the starting quarterback. Love the Arkansas shout out, Daniel. But you had it at the tip of your tongue, and you went by it. Kentucky. I'm going to let y'all know. I'm going to let y'all know this right in here. Have you ever really looked into the 3-year paradox that is Mark Stoops?
Oh, yeah.
Every 3 years, Kentucky wins 10 games. If we look at 2018, they were 10-3. In 2019, they went 8-5. 2020, 5-6. 2021, 10-3. Then 2022, 7-6. 2023, 7-6. Gentlemen, it's year 3. And he has consistently had this 3-year paradox where in the 3rd year, they get 10 wins. Now, you may be asking yourself, how are they going to replace Devin Leary? Really? The question is, how are they going to replace Ray Davis? Now, they get a transfer from Ohio State. He got banged up a little bit, but I think he's still going to be good to go sooner rather than later. They also have Jamarian Wilcox. If Brock Vandegrift proves to be a guy, they still have Barrion Brown. That's a guy that Bama wanted and wanted bad. And if he gets a quarterback to give him the ball, he could torch teams. Like we talk all this much about Luther Burden, and deservedly so. That guy has all the tools to make a run for a top 3 wide receiver in the SEC, depending 100%. On what these Alabama guys can do. That guy is dangerous. And then you have Deion Walker. Monster. Kentucky. That's my sleeper.
I'm glad you called out Barry and Brown because he's one that maybe not everybody in the SEC knows or gets talked about enough. But he is absolutely a field stretcher. He is a burner. He's a great route runner. And if Vandergrift can get the ball to him, Kentucky's defense is good enough that, again, I looked at their schedule, Ty, and they've got 9 wins that they on that schedule. If they beat Florida and Auburn, that's a 9-win Kentucky team.
And they have really done well against Florida here as of late, right? Like that Kentucky team has it. And who said, Mike, I might have phrased this wrong. I'm saying I think Ole Miss and Bama are the problems for Oklahoma, not that Ole Miss is better than Bama. I think I phrased that wrong. That was my point there. But yeah, Kentucky.
Love it.
Like Chris said, I got the Gators for some odd reason. I think their schedule might not show it, but they're gonna make some teams, I think, have to come with it. They won't be as overlooked as possible. So I got the Gators. I think they'll be going in the right direction. I think everybody's looking over them, so I think they're going to be competitive. Like LaShawn said, how South Carolina is going to be competitive with a lot of teams. Guys, can we go beyond the SEC? Who do y'all have outside of the SEC that is a sleeper in college football? Rapid fire and put you on the spot.
Okay.
Patty, you spoke up first. Go first.
I think it's Virginia Tech.
The Hokies.
I love Virginia Tech. They've
Beat
got
me to it.
Man, to me and Ty have been simpatico today, which makes me feel good because Ty knows his shit.
Go. Speak on it.
I think Virginia Tech, outside of losing the tight end transfer to Ole Miss, who Ricky Wright is by all means, word out of campus, he's going to be a weapon for Kiffin. But you take away that one guy, they have the most returning starters in all of college football. I just really like, and if you watched them last year, they got better as the year went on. They had a good defense. They've got some pieces on offense. Their schedule, I'm a schedule guy. And in that ACC, you've got so few hurdles. I mean, it's Florida State and maybe Clemson if Klubnik is what they finally want him to be. But, man, mine's Virginia Tech. I love the Hokies this year. I'm sorry I went ahead of you on that one, man. But that's hey, man, Enter Sandman. Let's get it.
Let's go. Ty?
No, that makes my heart so happy that you said that. I'm not mad at all. Love that pick. Couldn't agree more. Mine is going to be ranked, but it's a team that I really think they have the makeup to be able to hurt some people in the Big 12, and that's Arizona. I mean, you return Noah Fafita, you return McMillan. That's a duo that's going to be very hard to stop. And I think that they're going to have some guys such as a Takario Davis be able to make teams pay on the defensive side of the ball. They were a team that finished the year really good, played Oklahoma real well in that bowl game. And I think that a lot of people who down Oklahoma for that game didn't realize that that was a pretty darn good Arizona team, right? Like, it's not like the Arizona teams of the past few years. There are some dudes on that team. So I really like Arizona to be able to make some things happen in the Big 12.
LaShawn, who is your sleeper outside of the SEC?
This is, I mean, not gonna lie, somebody took mine already, but we're gonna move on. I'm gonna go ahead and say NC State. I'm always a fan.
It's a good one.
I'm always a fan of the attitude and the grit they bring in their games. They don't necessarily have an easy schedule. They kind of got some tough games in the early on in the season. But if they can withstand that storm and they can up one or two upsets, they can find themselves in top 15 real quick with on schedule. So NC State.
I like that. And Dave Dorian always has one of the best defensive lines in the country. And just like you said, Lou, what a gritty team. Get another solid call.
Love it.
Let's go. Dan, we're glad to have you back. I know you're running late at the old gray lady nursing home tonight. So give us your take on who is the sleeper outside of the SEC in college football for this 2024 season.
Man, I don't know if you want to characterize me as a sleeper, but I happened to be looking at the roster the other day, I mentioned it to you guys, but I see a lot of upperclassmen, but not a whole lot of experience. But that is Florida State. I'm looking at it. A lot of seniors on the roster. For a little team full of mercenaries, if you will. But a lot of guys, that's been playing college football a while, but not a whole lot of experience. But I'm looking for them to have a surprising year in the ACC. But by our standard.
Florida State. Chris James. You're on mute.
Well, the only answer is D.
Oh. You're not gonna get me.
Okay. Okay. Ty took my original answer, which was Arizona. I like that, Ty. I think they are going to win the Big 12 between them and Utah. I like those, and then you have tough teams like K-State and Oklahoma State. That should be pretty good too.
Big 12 is like going to be a lot of fun this year.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a lot of this. UCF. It's going to be a lot of fun this year. But the team that people are sleeping on, that people have written off for years and laughed at, they've been a laughing stock, are the Miami Hurricanes. I have them picked to win the ACC this year.
Are they going to take a knee though?
Oh, in 2 minutes less.
Because when you have a quarterback, man, a quarterback makes a world of difference, man. And you go get a quarterback like Cam Ward, man, and put them in with all that talent that they've been accumulating. They were only a quarterback away, man. That's been their problem the last few years. They were a quarterback away. And now they have that in place, man. I'm telling y'all, Miami Hurricanes will win 10 games this year.
Well, my sleeper guys, now wrap this subject up. I'm going to go with the Fighting Gus Malzahn's at Central Florida. They got KJ Jefferson.
Love it.
At quarterback, the transfer from Arkansas. I think that could be similar to how Cam Newton was at Auburn in that impact in that offense. So I'm going to roll with Central Florida.
Love it.
I'm going to go with the Golden Knights down there in Orlando, Florida.
Matt.
Yeah.
Can I add an asterisk?
Yeah.
I also want to publicly announce that I'm also supporting a second team this year in the NCAA. It is the New Mexico State.
The Lobos.
The Lobos.
Wait, were we not all in on that?
I mean, I don't know if we all were, but I'm just saying like that's my second team. I'm rooting for them all season. I might even get a shirt.
It is funny that Gus has UCF doing better than Auburn, but all right, let's break that. Where we go?
Let's go. Let's move on, guys. We're going to talk about a lot more of college football next week's show, so be sure to tune in the final whistle. Stay tuned on the Bama Standard. Guys, let's go to Alabama's. Listen, Alabama's 11 games away from facing off to Western Kentucky. Guys, let's kind of get a little preview into Western Kentucky, Alabama next Saturday, kicking off football. What do you guys want to start with? I'll start with, let's go Lushan. I know Lushan kind of dove into this a little bit earlier. Lushan, give us your take on Alabama going up against Western Kentucky.
Western Kentucky seems to be a very competitive team. They've done well in the last couple of years in their conference. They have a familiar transfer that I want to highlight in the form of T.J. Finley. And if Bama fans, you remember T.J. Finley. He went to LSU and then he went to Auburn. And then I thought he graduated, but apparently when you go to either of those schools or anywhere else besides Bama, you could be in college till you're 30. But you can't deny the kid is also 6'7", about 245 pounds. So that's going to be interesting. I'm interested to see how many times our defense smacks that big creation that they got back there. But he can also toss the football. I mean, he's been in college for 8 years. So, I mean, he should know how to handle the football. So I'm interested to see what they got on defense, how they stack up against our offensive line. They got some upperclassmen, but they're breaking in some new guys too in the secondary, as well as on the defensive line. So I think it's going to be a great game, but I think our physicality in the trenches is going to be what decides the game.
Great comment. I love how you talked about TJ Finley going against Alabama probably for the fourth time. Let's go to Ty Hayes. Give us now. I want to get your different perspective. Can you talk about what potential threats Western Kentucky can present against Alabama? Whether that's offensively, defensively. We know they put up a lot of points traditionally. So just kind of give us your take on some of the threats that Western Kentucky can pose to Alabama.
Yeah, and you know, I'm usually the one who can give you something, but I think that the matchup that's going to really be great is USF. I don't know that we are going to just learn a bucket against Western Kentucky. Look, Brian Ellis hasn't been there in 2 years. He was the guy who set records over there with Bailey Zappi, right? Brian Ellis now at Alabama, by the way, offensive mastermind. And dare I say, Coach DeBoer's answer, if Nick Sheridan gets picked up, is Brian Ellis, right? He and Coach Shepard taking over that offense. But Western Kentucky, guys, they were 47th in the nation in offense last year. New quarterback. They lost their leading wide receiver to the NFL, and they were 94th in the nation out of 133 in opponents' point per game. So I think this is a game where if you're Alabama, you go out there and you play your game. You do so fluidly. You don't make mistakes. You get some of your young guys some reps, right? And I think this is a game where you could see Jalen Milroe, third quarter, he's sitting on the sidelines because his work is done. And you have some of your starters out. And I mean, I've been doing this show with y'all for a year now. Y'all know at this point that I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, this is going to be the gimme matchup, right? Like I always look for they're replacing a lot. Finley's a veteran guy, right? Like I think that he'll bring some expertise to the table, but I think USF is the matchup that's really going to be super beneficial for this squad in terms of guarding that veer and shoot early in the season.
I like it. Ty says that USF is going to propel us, be a big game for the Crimson Tide. Let's go to Daniel Petty.
I'm going to agree and disagree with Ty. I do agree that USF is going to end up being the better test and the more athletic team. I think the coach at UCF and I think USF, I get the I-4.
Yeah, goalish.
Get them backed up. Yeah, that's the I-4 people will get pissed about that. But no, I think USF is definitely going to present a bigger challenge talent-wise. I think they're going to be a better team. However, with the offense, and Ty was right, Western Kentucky didn't have a great offense last year. They still averaged 30 points a game. Their quarterback threw for 3,000 yards and 31 touchdowns. But they lose that quarterback. They lose not just their top receiver, their top two receivers. I mean, they're one of their starters is a transfer from Alabama State. And, you know, the talent's not going to be there. But what it does provide is an early look at Wisconsin because they're going to run a lot of the same schemes and offenses that Wisconsin does.
Great point.
So while they may not be able to put up the fight that you're going to get out of USF or the talent that you face in Wisconsin, it's at least going to give our defense an early look at the offense they're going to face when we go up to Wisconsin. So it does kind of give the defense a chance to face a wide open offense. And luckily it's against lesser talent. So you can kind of make some mistakes and make up for it. But I do think it is a good litmus test for the defense against Wisconsin and the offense they're going to face. But again, I do also agree with Ty in the fact that I think we're just going to out talent on that game. But I do think it can provide some blueprint for the game a few weeks later.
Great take right there. Dan, give us your take on the Western Kentucky Alabama matchup.
Yeah, did we not learn anything from Coach Saban? We don't really know what we're gonna get out of Western Kentucky, but because so much turnover, but you got to know we'll be bringing in a new defensive scheme and everything. So I'm not sure if Jalen Milroe will be out of the game in the third quarter. I think we're going to be trying to get into a rhythm going into South Florida, but TJ Finley, he's able to make things happen with his legs and his size. So when we get to him, we got to be able to bring him down. He kind of gave us problems with that a little bit at LSU and Auburn, but I'm just amazed that he's still in college. By the way, I guess he's older than Stetson Bennett almost. I guess, but
it's a good one.
Yeah, we won't really know where we're at, like you guys said, until USF. But I think that Western Kentucky will be able to move the ball between the 20s. It's just I think we'll be able to obviously generate more turnovers, because I think they'll try to play a little ball control with us. But we'll see. We'll see in 11 days.
I love it. And Chris, would you end us?
Well, I think Western Kentucky, man, they lost some guys, but they're still second favorite behind Liberty to win that conference. I think the line, the over-under win total is 7.5. Guess who their offensive coordinator is?
Who?
I bet you guys didn't know.
Who?
Anybody but Ty can answer.
D.
Let me guess, Stetson Bennett, since he's getting cut.
No, it's Will Friend, former Alabama All-SEC guard from Alabama, Will Friend, who also was a grad assistant back when I was at Bama. GA. He was the O-line coach there, and yeah, he's promoted. He's promoted to take over the O this year. So that's a good thing, man. Congrats to Will, man. He gets
excited for him.
Yeah, man. I'm excited he gets to come back home, where he spent all those years in Tuscaloosa. So he still has love for Bama in his heart. So I'm happy for him to be home. But they're gonna sling it around, man. Like they have in the past, like they've been doing it. The running game is still up in the air, but they have some receivers, that has production under their belt returning this year. So it'll be a good, like we said, it'll be a good test for our defense. Offense, like on the flip side of it, I don't care what type of defense we face. We're going to be able to put up points regardless of who we're playing. So I don't care what their defense brings, how many stars they bring back or whatnot. It doesn't matter. They bring back 1 or 11. We still going to probably hit 40 or 50 on them. So, but I'm just interested to see our guys just play somebody other than themselves, man. It seems like we can't get the last play that happened against Michigan. That tastes out of our mouth quick enough, man. That play still resonates. That bad snap and then run into the back of a lineman, which was the most horrible play call. I'm going on a tangent, but
that punt return, that punt was what haunts me more so than anything. How we were this close to getting the safety and just taking
that fumble. It, hitting them. We just need somebody to come blast them, make them fumble.
Yeah.
And but y'all know what though?
What play y'all talking about? Y'all just midway through that play.
The punt in the fourth quarter, the end of the second overtime. He to him, and that guy fumbled it. He fumbled it, dropped it, then picked it up, and we almost got a safety. And he got out to like the 2. But think about this, guys. Looking back to it, we'd have beat Michigan that game, and we would have played Washington in the national championship, beat Washington. Would the board have left Washington to come coach Alabama?
Everything happened for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason. So could you sacrifice a potential championship for many more years of being there with a chance to win more national championships?
I got too much Bama in me. No.
We don't sacrifice the championship.
We don't sacrifice ships.
No, we got so many, man. We can let somebody for bar ships. They go one.
No, we can't.
Who is this guy?
And we'll still have more than anybody.
No.
No. Kings don't surrender their crowns, man. Come on now.
Dude, we can give away 5 ships and still be more than anybody else.
I want them all.
There you go.
I want no one else to succeed.
I know.
Right.
Speaking
domination.
Domination. Speaking of won them all, listen, when Alabama's dominant this year in Tuscaloosa, at Bryant-Denny Stadium, going against Western Kentucky, South Florida, Missouri, Auburn, all those guys in Bryant-Denny, you're going to need Georgia. Oh, you're going to need your title towel in Tuscaloosa, in Bryant-Denny. Please get this amazing towel. Listen, you can wave it around like a helicopter in Bryant-Denny Stadium. You can wipe your sweat off. You could do whatever you want, aka Hugh Freeze with the towel. But if you want the towel, go to wetwillsports.com. That's wetwillsports.com and get you your famous title towel. So, guys, let's travel down out of the United States. Go have some Mai Tais and
yes,
coconut rum, and let's go to an island and discuss some wide receiver DB prospects.
Let me kick my feet up.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we in the island.
I love it.
We in the island. Listen, on the island with me and Chris James. Listen, but you know it's the final whistle panel, guys. On the island, I'm enjoying, a little Mai Tai right now. I'm drinking some water. It's pretty hot out here. Listen, on the island, this is where we discuss a receiver and a DB. And tonight we're going to discuss Rico Scott. Shouts out to Rico Scott. He was rocking that 11 jersey down there in T-Town. He has made a lot of plays. He's going to be an emerging freshman to kind of get in the rotation. I'm going to let Chris kind of talk about him, and let's highlight Rico Scott as he's been doing his thing in these scrimmages in fall camp. Chris.
Hey, Dan. What receiver I said was going to come in and make an impact, guys, when we talked about this like months and months ago?
You said BJ Scott, not Rico Scott.
Still waiting on his breakout game, huh?
Travis Scott.
BJ, y'all crazy. But yeah, man. I mean, just going back to the film, guys, you could tell from his high school film that guy gets it, man. He's somebody that's physically ready. He's fast. He's strong, and he understands how to get open. And that's why he's playing now, because in this type of offense, you got to understand how to get open, man. How to be a target. How to make yourself. You got to market yourself, because we have so many guys that receiver that can just jump off the page. It's something that you have to do different or better than most. And in this offense, that's getting open, and then also being physically enough to hold up in the running game to be able to block downfield, block those DBs. Rico's a physical guy, man. He's not a small guy. He's a bruiser, man. But dealing with guys like that, man, he's the type that accepts challenges, because keep in mind, he could have left with the rest of them when Coach Saban retired. Like, other people just jumped off board, but this guy stayed and wanted to compete, man. And that's what stands out more about him to me. I think that like when people look at our receiver room and they say, "Oh, that's a weakness for Bama," blah blah blah. But I feel quite opposite of that, and I think that alongside Ryan Williams, that guy right there is going to be somebody that will see a lot of playing time early and often, and also make plays. Like, we're so loaded, man, with young talent at receiver. It's scary to think about what we have in the future. So, and as a DB, like, having to cover somebody like that, man, the thing that we hate the most as DBs are physical receivers, because you not only have to get hands on them, reroute them, they're tough, man. They're tough to tackle, and when they come at you all game, it kind of wears on you when you have to deal with those physical guys outside. It kind of wears on you as a defensive back. You want somebody you can kind of control, kind of manhandle, but he's quite the opposite from that. And SEC opposing defenses. We'll find out soon enough, Matt. Soon enough. T-minus 2 weeks for kickoff.
I agree. And to piggyback about Rico Scott, Chris mentioned his physicality. I just want to highlight, I think, how much added depth and how versatile we can be in the receiver room. You got, obviously your Ryan Williams, but don't sleep on guys like Cole Adams and, Bubba Hampton's, a lot of other guys that I think will be surprises that we will bring on throughout the season. So I'm excited to discuss Rico Scott. I want to put it to the panel, Lushawn, Ty, Dan, Petty. Is there anything y'all want to add about Rico Scott before we go to the defensive side of the ball? Dan?
Yeah, one thing I can say about Rico Scott, he was recruited, and evaluated by the prior coaching staff, and Coach DeBoer, we know when he came in, he wanted his certain type of receiver, right? And for them to say, hey, we own to something here. We like this guy. He's a special player. We had a little success before up in northern Pennsylvania with Robert Foster. So, we go back into Pennsylvania again, get another Pennsylvania kid. Speed was the part of the game that stood out at first. When he came and performed in camp 2 summers ago, the staff was amazed. He got a little thick build, strong lower body, and after evaluating and watching this film, his ability to get in and out of routes, that stood out about him. And I think he's going to be able to do good things in Tuscaloosa.
Lushawn, Ty, Petty, anything you want to add regarding Rico Scott?
Yeah. I think he resembles to me, like, I know he's taller, but he kind of reminds me of the physical build of like how Kendrick Law came in and how he just likes to get physical downfield with defensive backs. And like Chris alluded to, with our receivers and how they are throughout our lineup, they're a physical group. So as the game wears on and you think you're going to get a backup to come in, to get a 200-pound freshman to come in and do mop-up work, that's still going to mess you up. And as you guys have seen, the kid is physical. He can take hits. And the fact that he's taking reps with the first team means Kalen DeBoer, Nick Sheridan and company, Shepard, they're all taking in all this talent. They're not just going to be focal point on one receiver. The fact that we have Rico Scott and Ryan Williams, along with everything else we have, and Bubba Hampton and Jefferson, like it's going to be very difficult for a defensive coach to key in on 6 to 7 different receivers, because realistically, at one point in the season, you're not going to know who's going to go in and what they're going to be doing, because we have so many multi-talented guys. And it doesn't stop with Rico Scott. But what it does do is Rico Scott starts the trend of your Kendrick Law, your Jeremy Bernard, your bigger type of receivers that are going to be downfield. Like, listen, this ball's mine and you're not going to take it. Or I'm going to be downfield cracking a linebacker. And I love that type of energy.
So guys, we talked about Rico Scott. Before I give it to Ty and Petty, I want to go to the defensive side of the ball, and I want to talk about a defensive back that's kind of emerged as the past couple of days, and that is King Mack, Mr. Return of the Mack. He's had a couple interceptions on the defensive side. Kane Womack has spoken barely highly of him. Ty, Petty, I kind of want to discuss what you guys have heard, or what your evaluation of what kind of asset he can be on the Alabama defense on an island. Return of the Mack, King Mack. Ty Hayes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just depth back there, right? And I mean, you look at that safety position. King Mack is a guy that I think you get into any sort of dime sets, he's going to see the field this year because of his coverage ability. And you hear great things about him just as a football player, but he is so gifted in coverage. I think he is going to separate there. And he was a guy, I remember when we got him, I was really excited about this win. I think you lost Downs. That sucks. But this staff did an incredible job, and I don't know that they've still been given the credit that's due in replacing Caleb Downs with Sab, Mack, and Cam Howard, who, by the way, a lot of people don't know about, but my family in that Charlotte area, they were devastated whenever he transferred out because they were like, that kid was someone that the staff, that the people were really excited to see grow. Staff did great.
Patty, can you talk about King Mack?
The only thing there's not much I can add to what you guys have said other than I think both of these players fall under the same category. Every year you've got a player that comes in with a more like a heralded class, and you hear about the Ryan Williams and Caleb Odom and then Mincy and Mbakwe and all these stars, but there's always that one kid that is good. You know he's good, but he doesn't get the press that those get, but they end up being glue players or absolute stars. And it sounds like from both the camps that Rico is going to turn out with a good body size. It's hard to say that he got underlooked, but again, with the class he came with, he kind of did. These seem like the two players that at the end you're going to be like, damn, those are the ones that shined in that recruiting class that you really didn't expect.
I got it. Let's go. So, Chris, Daniel, anything you want to add about King Mack, Lushan?
I mean, I was a fan of him in the Big Ten just because, I hate the Big Ten, and he gave some universities up there some fits. Not to mention, this kid is a burner. And I'm a fan of two things on defense, physicality and speed. And he possesses both. You put him in Kane Womack's swarm defense with the coaching he's got, Colin Hitzler, I'm telling you guys, turnover machines no matter who we roll out there. And the more depth we have, the more dangerous we're going to be. This is the SEC. This ain't the Big Ten where we got cupcake schedules and we might have to play 1 or 2 games a season. We're going to have some tough games all season. So we're going to need some depth. And the fact that Return of the Mack is showing colors, that just makes me excited because everyone on the field is going to get me excited. I'm not going to have nightmares of, I'm not going to say certain players. We're just going to say numbers like 28 being out there getting a pass interference call or, some other players out there just not doing what they are supposed to be doing. We don't have that problem. In our secondary, we got guys that want to come in and make plays. We got guys that want to come in and make themselves known. And Return of the Mack's doing that. So, hey, King, do your thing.
Do your thing. And guys, that has been the episode of On an Island. Be sure to tune in next week. You never know what outfits we might have for On an Island. So guys, let's transition to we know the chat was asking a lot of questions earlier. Let's get whistle audience. What do we want to call them? The Whistleonians. The fans, the Whistleonians, questions and answer.
The Whistle Warriors.
Whistle Warriors out there in the chat.
Whistleonians, I like that. Whistleonians.
So let's start with our first one. He says, do y'all think it's a reasonable take to think Turbo Rogers stays committed to Bama because he has an all-purpose back and would thrive in this offense? Me personally, I think he would stay. I think he should stay, but I think if he goes somewhere, it's going to be another running back already on the team, so he's still going to have to compete. So my take, I would stay at Alabama, but I'm going to give the floor to you guys. Rapid fire, starting with Ty, Dan, Chris, Patty, Lushan.
Yeah, I think he stays, and for all the same reasons. Robert Gillespie, I think, is one of the best recruiters in the nation, and everywhere where he has been forecasted to flip, he would be running back 2 in that class, not rating-wise, just saying he'd be one of 2 running backs in that class anyways.
Dan.
Yeah. He's going to continue to take visits, and Alabama, the reason he stayed committed was a relationship with Coach Gillespie. He's going to continue to take visits. He's visiting Georgia, Ohio State, Auburn, besides Alabama. Alabama, he transferred to IMG, and he didn't get the workload that he got before when he was at Pike Road. Now he's back in Alabama, transferred, and so Alabama's gonna evaluate him. They're gonna watch him carefully, and see what they're gonna do with him this year.
Chris,
Either you with us or you're not.
I hear that, Patty.
Yeah, man. I think it's an easy sell with having Haynes and Jam and Young this year with the 3-headed monster and showing that you're going to give multiple carries. You're going to see multiple backs. I don't think this hurts at all.
Lushan.
It's very simple. You look at history. Name one other university where multiple running backs have won a Heisman Trophy. Mic drop. He stays with the Tide.
Let's go. Next question. Hopefully that answered your question, Kaylin DeBoss. Let's go to Keenafi. What or who is our second best defensive coach? We'll go in reverse order. Lushan.
Oh, it's tough. Oh, this is tough. Give me Freddie Roach.
Oh, you got
Roach. Daniel Petty. Who's Alabama's second best defensive coach?
I'm Roach.
Roach. Ooh.
Yeah, man, Roach.
Let's go, Chris.
Well, who's our first? Who's our best?
Womack, I guess.
I mean, I don't like. I think that Colin Hitchler is the man. It's safety. He's a dog back there, man. You just say like any one of them can be the best, man. Because I think Roach is a dog and good coach too. But yeah. I don't know. That's why I'm asking who's the best.
I don't know. I guess we're assuming Womack's the best, so because he's a DC. So I guess that's
right.
Going into it, Dan James.
You got a few out there. You got Mo Linguist, but I'm gonna go with Freddie Roach because he played at Bama.
I like that. I'm gonna go. Let's go, Ty Hayes.
Yeah, I think it's either Roach or Hitchler. I'm really big fan of Hitchler. What he did at Cincinnati. He was just a part of that secondary. Ricardo Hallman had 7 interceptions. Safety play exceptional over at Wisconsin. So tough to say.
I'm gonna go with somebody different. I'm gonna go with Christian Robinson.
I knew that. I was about to say somebody got better give Christian.
I like his juice, the way he's got those wolves wolving out there on the edge. So I'm gonna go with Christian Robinson just to throw a different name out there. So
I love it.
Thanks for that question, Mr. Keen Afi. Let's go to Mike G. Coincidence that Dear and Courtney Morgan signed on the same day?
Yep.
Yeah. That's what we do. We let it be known. Listen, this is how we do it at Bama.
After we locked up Courtney Morgan, we gave Dear the rest.
We gave Dear the rest. Keith Holcomb says, shouts out to Keith Holcomb, Bama legend, played at Bama, great fan.
Baseball and football at Alabama.
We do it all. Keith was a stud. Keith was a
special teams
guru. Look, he could do it all.
Keith, I'll take this one. The first quarter of the first game.
Before Hollywood Phil on a consistent basis.
Day done.
Quarter of the first game.
Day one.
Let's talk about this. Can you imagine when he does come on the field, the amount of roar that's going to be going on in Bryant-Denny when they
announce that starting lineup and he's on the jumbotron.
Oh my God!
Hey, when he catch that first slant and house it.
Oh man, it's going to go crazy. The deuce is loose. Oh man, great question right there from Keith Holcomb.
Hollywood.
Bama line. Let's go to Amber Nicole 313. She says, how do you guys feel about Alabama's chances of landing Justice here? He's a Georgia lock, but we'll love to land him. We're going to start with Dan James, and then we'll go to Ty because they're kind of our recruiting guys.
Let me see. How should I word? How do you guys feel about Bama's chances? I give Bama a puncher's chance. It's a good sign that he held off from making the decision until the season. So getting them back on campus is going to be huge. The more kids visit Bama, the better for us. You know what I'm saying? So I think we have a pretty good chance once we get him back on campus. You know, so he's not the one that say, you know, okay, he's gonna visit, never end up visiting. So he actually comes on the visit. You know, I really like our chance.
Ty, what are you hearing out there?
Yeah, same. I mean, Georgia's continuing to load up on the defensive line, got an edge commit. If I'm not mistaken, they got a prediction, or I didn't see what it was, another defensive lineman outside of the edge. The longer this goes, I think it bodes better for Alabama. The fact that, like Dan said, he didn't shut it down. Time goes on. Roach continues to recruit, and it gives him an opportunity to see the difference in what Saban and them were doing as opposed to what Walmeck's going to be doing on the defensive front.
And I would like to add, we're probably most likely losing Keenan, Jaheim Otis. So we're going to need a big time guy to kind of fill that void and add that depth for the future. So anything, Lushawn, anybody, Petty, anything you want to add on this subject? Sorry, Chris, Mr.
I
Big
mean, if you want to look at track record recently, you can say Georgia. If you want to look at who makes the money in the NFL,
here you go.
Defensive line, you go Bama. Flat out.
Here you go.
Flat out.
Every time. Bama.
Georgia.
Plus, you got
if you want to learn how to become a NASCAR driver, you go to Georgia.
You go to Georgia, you're gonna have to get a lawyer, you're gonna have to get an all-time Uber.
Personal
You're
surprise.
gonna be able to drive. You're gonna get a Hemi in your whip as soon as you get on campus.
You know what? I should have taken the LSAT and moved to Athens.
You'll be a millionaire. You'll be a trillionaire.
Ty would be a billionaire right now.
They be on too much of that Shady Mile.
Shady Mile. Just like the Shady
They be
Mile.
on a lot more than Shady Mile.
I heard their GM, their player.
Tom's still trying to try that, by the way.
I heard
That Shady Mile.
their GM is going to, the guy named Johnny Walker. I heard he's highly rated to be their team's GM. Petty, I thought you would like that one.
I like Johnny. Johnny's good one.
It's got to be Johnny Walker, Jim Bean, or something, because every time I open my phone on the weekend, a Georgia player got in trouble for driving, or a Georgia player just got charges dismissed for driving reckless.
The answer to this question is yes.
Does getting AK push us up in recruiting? Yes, Miss Southern.
I'm the number one running back. Move up.
Well, so yes and no, right? Like
Right.
yes, from the perspective of it furthers our lead of number 2 class in the nation separating. We're still a little bit behind Ohio State. I think we have 303 points. They're sitting at 310, but they have more commits than us. And we have the higher average recruit rating.
Right. Nice. Love that. Thanks for the question, Miss Southern Red. And our last one, Chris Camp. He says, well, I pick everybody else. Who's the sleeper? My sleeper is going to be Mississippi State. L State.
Yeah, they're going to be sleep.
Fighting cowbells.
Dead in the cellar. They're going to be sleep face down in the cellar.
I mean, they do got a new coach. They do have Libby. Well, I forgot his name.
Levy.
They got Von Braun. I mean, but it's Mississippi State. That's
Transfer quarterback from Baylor.
Total culture shift as well, going from Leach to then a defensive guy, now back to an offensive guy. Like that's a lot on a program.
I hate to say it, State's headed more towards the Vanderbilt direction than anywhere else.
I hate to agree, but yeah.
I mean, they're getting left. They're not. And look, man, they're not set up for the NIL era. They were hoping it would go away or get fixed, and instead of like still working it while it wasn't getting fixed, you get passed behind, and they're getting left pretty far behind, and it's going to be rough for State to come out of it.
I'll just focus on baseball. So, well, that's it, guys.
I'd still rather watch them.
Well, hold on, Matt. You say that's it. This is the PG-13 portion of the show, and I want to warn everybody. I'm probably going to hurt some Auburn feelings, so if you got thin skin, this is the time to turn it off. But after last week's rant, I did get a copious amount of hate mail from our Auburn brethren. And look, Auburn fans, this is PSA from Petty Time. If you're going to send me hate mail, don't leave your farmersonly.com profile in the signature of the email. But since you did, I'm going to read out a thank you to all the Auburn fans that decided to send me hate mail this week. So to the farmersonly.com profile, the wider the better. Don't worry, buddy. You're in Lee County. You got plenty to choose from on the wider the better. Hey, from 2 goats are better than 1. Have a good time at the cattle auction this week, buddy. Second cousins and up are welcome. Ooh, that's definitely a Lee County thing there. What happened to the dead Indian spirits under the field? Because now we can't even beat New Mexico State at home. I don't know, buddy. Better luck next year, big guy. And finally, are donkeys allowed in the parlor? No animals in the parlor. But if you're going to send me any more hate mail, please keep watching the show, but don't put your farmersonly.com in your profile. War Eagle.
Oh, man, that was amazing. And that's Petty's mailbag. Auburn's #1 fan right now.
Yeah, I don't think I'm allowed in Lee County for the next several years.
Oh, man. New Mexico State Lobos, baby. But listen, that'll be another episode. But, guys, how can they follow you guys? Lucian, we'll start with you.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Lucian Graves. You can also find me on X. I changed my name, so I got to look at it. It's 4Roluce21 on X. And as usual, you can find me every Tuesday night, and we're getting closer and closer and closer to the post-game show, guys. So you can also find me there sometimes. But as usual, every Tuesday night, surrounded by the greatest cast, talking about the greatest football team on the planet, coached by the greatest coaching staff ever assembled on said planet. Roll daggum tide, y'all.
Roll daggum time. Chris, how can they follow you? Outside of you coaching on Friday nights.
I'm going to go really fast. You can find me on Facebook at Chris K. James Sr. You can find me on X at Coach Chris James. You can find me on Instagram at Chris final_whistle_Chris.
I like it. Damn.
You know, find him at Circle K getting the big gulp that you saw earlier.
In market, cuz. In market. Get it right.
Market.
In market.
In the market.
Feel like we're in Encino Man.
Listen, you guys can catch me all the time exclusively on this channel here. The Final Whistle every Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Every Wednesday night, the Crimson Dynasty. Y'all be sure to tune in tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Central. You catch me on X at the Final Whistle Dan. And, you can catch me on Instagram, Dan James IV. Y'all make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe. Y'all love you guys. We appreciate it.
And Daniel Petty, I know there are wanted signs up there in Lee County for you.
You can find me in witness protection. Not telling you where.
Oh, come on.
No, Petty _ Daniel on X. It's Petty on Facebook. You can you can find me in Tampa. Come on, Auburn fans, let's rock. Every Tuesday night, I'm with my fellas here on the Final Whistle, the Avengers. But also, guys, be on the lookout coming up this season. I'm also going to have a show probably on Thursday nights or later in the week called Crossing Midfield. You'll see different guys from all over the network join me from time to time. But what that's going to be, Crossing Midfield, we're going to have guests from the big games, and it's going to start Wisconsin week. We've got somebody on from Wisconsin. We're going to have Georgia guys, Tennessee. We're going to have folks from every team, but we're going to have a guest from other teams, and we're just going to break down the game and maybe learn a little bit about their stuff and just have a good time and really break it down with guests from and writers and media from the big games, the big matchups. So hopefully that's something that'll excite you guys, but as we're heading into game weeks. But first one's going to be against Wisconsin, so look forward to that, Crossing Midfield. And again, no better place than here on Tuesday nights with the Avengers.
I heard that. And last but not least, Mr. Around the Table Sports. How can they find you, Mr.
Anywhere where they give me a microphone to just rant. You can find me over here. You can find me at Around the Table Sports. You can find me Wednesday evenings at the SEC Connect. You can find me Fridays in the afternoon, 12 Central, doing the college football pick'em show for Bleacher Report. You can find me Saturdays after every single Alabama game doing the post-game show for Bleacher Report. So anywhere and everywhere, man. That's where I am.
And listen, follow Ty Hayes and the rest of the crew. And like we said, we have Crimson Dynasty tomorrow, Wednesday night. Teague's Take. We've got Saturday Talking Football on Saturday night. So we say all that to say that the Bama Standard is your one-stop shop for Alabama football content. But this is the final whistle, and we like to end on these last two roads.
Roll Tide.
Roll that.
Yeah,